What's good, y'all? If you're like me and were deeply confused by Mastema as a character in Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance, then this video is for you. I've played through this game a total of 4 times at this point, played through the original release of SMT5 almost 4 times, and still have no clue as to why Mastema exists in the new version, much less has the crazy powers he does. Throughout this video, I'll be discussing what Mastema does in-game and then filling in what the story doesn't tell you so you can understand as well from a lore perspective. Also, here's your warning. Significant story spoilers ahead for the canon of Vengeance. Another disclaimer, when it comes to me leveling criticisms at the story of Shin Megami Tensei V, I do want to say I like both stories told by the original and Vengeance quite a bit. I just have some criticisms that I'll probably be directing at it from time to time when I make SMT videos. Please do not take that as me hating the game. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance begins the game by giving you the option to play the Canon of Creation, the original story of SMT5, or the Canon of Vengeance, the new story created specifically for this version of the game, which is honestly quite a bit better. When you reach the third area, Shinjuku, you'll be introduced to a new character named Mastema. He is referred to earlier in the story as an angel with black wings, but no one told me he had sick blue lips and a crazy mask. I think that's the first thing I'd say to describe him to someone else. He has sick blue lips, a crazy mask, and eyes that make me extremely uncomfortable. Right off the bat, we can see Mastema is not a good guy, gal, or non-binary pal. Speaking of, I don't think angels have a gender in the Bible, so I'll be using pronouns for angelic characters based on how they are presented in the story. It has been at least 2 decades since I've read any scriptures, so please forgive me about this. Mastema takes responsibility for turning humans into piles of salt, justifying this action by saying he is taking these measures to stop the Kadishtu from realizing their goals. I thought this was super fucked up right away, but it becomes even more fucked up when later the Kadishtu straight up tell you they had no intention of murdering anyone, which is fairly questionable all things considered. In case you're not a Bible scholar and just some average person, humans being turned into pillars of salt is a reference to the tale of Sodom and Gomorrah. These were 2 cities in the biblical Old Testament that were full of terrible people committing heinous atrocities, some of which involved children. God sent angels to tell his faithful servant Lot to flee with his family and never look back. Lot's wife looked back while they were fleeing and was turned into a pillar of salt. So this is some real Old Testament retribution shit. I'll be delving more into religion in a bit to talk about the lore behind Mastema. It is relevant to the story, so regardless of your personal beliefs, it's pretty much the only way I can explain Mastema and his actions. I wish they had expanded on this further in the story given they already rewrote it for Vengeance, but I digress. He then proceeds to turn your friend Dazai into salt and turns him back only after you swear to stop the Kadishtu, showing zero remorse for any of his actions. This is kind of why I hate law routes in these games in general. Everyone loves being a self-righteous prick in the name of the Lord. Once you leave, Mastema talks to Dazai and does something to give him power off-screen. This is Canon of Vengeance's attempt to explain why Dazai becomes an edgy shitlord in the latter half of the game. It's very hand-wavy and lazy, but the sad part is it feels even less lazy than Canon of Creation, where he just kind of goes from being a bumbling goofball to DBZ's Brawly for no real reason. I think Vengeance has done a tremendous job of improving the story, and I even have a deeper respect and appreciation for the original Canon of Creation story now that I've played through both again. I'm a huge proponent of show don't tell storytelling, but I think with some of these subjects they just do not give the audience enough. It's a good thing I have a YouTube channel and an unhealthy level of interest in SMT. At this point, Mastema pretty much becomes irrelevant to the story. He's somewhere lurking in the shadows, acting as a driving force for us to stop the Kadishtu from attaining their goals in order to save the rest of humanity from being annihilated by Mastema's ruthless solution to stop them himself. Honestly, I wish we had the option to just kill Mastema instead of worrying about him fucking shit up so we'd have one less worry. Just delete him and move on with our lives. The only time Mastema becomes extremely relevant again in the plot is near the end of Canon of Vengeance's Chaos Path. If you make the correct choices in the game, unlike me when I played it blind, you'll get the chaos ending where you side with Yoko to fulfill the Kadishtu's desires of recreating the world from scratch. When you do this, Mastema swoops in, takes control of Tiamat, and you have to fight her regardless. Then you get to finally kill Mastema. This is one of my favorite parts of Canon of Vengeance. Fuck law, fuck Mastema, one more god rejected. If you're like me, you have been left wanting. What was the point of putting Mastema in the game other than to provide us another punchable face to, well, punch? So I did what any well-adjusted person would do in 2025 and started Googling Mastema. Turns out, Mastema is an angel written about in the Book of Jubilees. What exactly is the Book of Jubilees? I don't remember any jubilance of any type in the Old or New Testament. Well, the Book of Jubilees is a chronological retelling of events that occurred in the Old Testament books Genesis and Exodus, broken up by counting jubilees. A jubilee in Jewish tradition is the year following 7 cycles of 7-year periods, or 49 years. So it is just the 50th year, the year following the 49th year. Confusing as hell, but also kind of interesting from a cultural standpoint. It's also important to note that Judaism, Protestantism, and Catholicism do not consider the Book of Jubilees to be canonical, which is why it's not in your weird uncle's Bible. Mastema is an angel introduced in this Book of Jubilees. He appears as a personification of the Hebrew word Mastema, which means hatred, hostility, enmity, or persecution. He requests hosts of demons and Nephilim from Yahweh in order to tempt and corrupt humanity. God's evil actions through the Torah are instead attributed to Mastema. For example, Mastema is responsible for the binding of Isaac. He is also considered to be the chief of the Nephilim. Nephilim are kind of murky as a biblical subject, but they were believed to be giants that were the offspring of fallen angels and humans, or possibly the offspring of Cain and Seth in the Book of Enoch, another non-canonical book. So how is Mastema not considered a fallen angel when he leads demons and giants? Some believe he plays a similar role as Satan, but is still completely under Yahweh's control. According to these religious texts, God allows evil to exist for a limited period of time, and Mastema enacts these evil deeds until God reins him in. He also does not enact any retribution to the faithful followers of Yahweh. Personally, I think the original authors of what would eventually become the Bible wanted to curb the blow of the wrathful actions God took in these scriptures, and they invented a scapegoat for this purpose. It doesn't really line up with Protestant Catholic views on God, Satan, and sin either. I can't really speak for Judaism, but I am very interested to know how this lines up with their beliefs. Also, apparently Mastema is a reflection of a similar figure named Iblis in the Quran. With this background lore about Mastema, it now becomes extremely clear why he exists and is capable of doing the things that he does. He tempts Dazai by granting him power. He enacts judgment and retribution upon humanity with no Yahweh left to rein him in. Even his ability to control Tiamat makes sense in the context of him being given control of demons by Yahweh. The reference to the Great Raven is from a story where Mastema sends ravens to devour seeds from the fields of humans. Mastema's role in the story becomes crystal clear once you know and understand the lore behind him. Like I said before, I think this is, however, a little too much show and not enough tell to satisfy the average person playing this game. Most people just end up shrugging Mastema off instead of crediting the SMT writers with what I feel is a really great use of a non-canonical biblical figure. I hope this has cleared up any confusion you may have had about Mastema. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll probably make more videos like this if you all are interested in them as well. Also because I just really love the lore behind the characters in SMT. Anyway, as always, thank you all so much for watching. It truly means the world to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.